Be sure to throw your plate or platter on a bat. The bat makes the removal from the wheel easier and prevents deformation. I would recommend using between 4 and 5 pounds of clay for a standard sized dinner plate. Sounds like a lot of clay, but actually when you're trimming it, when you're flipping it over and trimming the bottom side, when you're trimming a foot, a lot of that clay is removed. So I'm starting out here by centering the clay to a low, wide shape. And basically it's as wide as the serving area of the plate is going to be. Now I'm getting ready to open it, and as I open the plate, I'm using the side of my fist because I'm really bearing down on it. And I'm just pulling out to the outer edge. Make sure this area in the center here that you're leaving yourself enough clay. I'm leaving about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. Sounds like a lot of clay, but remember that when I cut this plate off of the bat with my cutoff wire, quite a bit of clay is left stuck on the bat. And we are going to be flipping our plates over and trimming the underside, so you want to have enough clay to have a trimmed foot. So I'm really bearing down on this, compressing the floor, because that's going to prevent future cracking and warping problems. And hopefully I'm popping any air bubbles. The next step here is to actually compress it with my wooden rib because it's a lot stronger than your fist. So take a moment to compress it with my wooden rib. And then stop to check your thickness with the pin tool. Make sure you've left enough clay. I've got about a 1/2 inch, so I'm good to go. Now I'm ready to pull up the wall, so I'm pulling up the rim. Make sure that you don't pull it too tall or too thin, because remember that as you set the rim, as you flare it out, it becomes quite a bit thinner. So I'm just going to do just a few easy pulls. And I'm letting my inside hand just push out just slightly. So I'm not going straight up, I'm just going slightly outward. Remember the centrifugal force of the wheel, everything does want to become wider. And as you're making a plate, it's pretty easy for the rim to want to fall down, for it to want to become a flying saucer and just fall. So I'm not throwing it straight down, I'm just throwing it slightly outward. And I'm also leaving the rim a little on the thick side. Now what we're going to do is come in with the wooden knife, and while I can still access this underside, I want to come in and take a 45-degree angle undercut. And what this is doing is it's chewing it up to the round, and it's removing excess clay. So I'm making my job in the trimming easier when we flip it upside down and tool the underside. The next thing I want to do is come in with my rib and just rib this underside, remove the extra slurry, remove my throwing lines. And removing this extra slurry just helps the plate be a little stronger, helps it dry a little faster. And again, I'm not going to be able to reach down here in just a moment, so I really want to just consider it while I can reach it. Next thing I'm going to do is make sure I'm happy with the quality of this interior serving section. So if I want to remove any of my throwing lines, I can come in with the metal rib. This is a great time just to practice with your ribs, see what kind of marks it makes. Make sure you're happy with the quality of the surface. You also have another opportunity here if you'd like to texture this area between the serving area and the rim. I can come in with my serrated rib or textured wooden tool. I can choose to actually add a texture in this area. very easy to true this up to round. I can come in with a fake credit card. These are great tools because I can come in with my scissors and cut any sort of little notched bead line that I like. And with this beaded edge, I can true up my texture. So I can create a clean line where it ends. Whether they're a smooth rib or a rib with a beaded edge. Okay, we're ready to set the rim. As I set the rim, I want to be supporting it on the underside with just wet fingertips that are going to glide along. And think about the form of the rim. The form of the rim is a slight arch. You don't want a flat rim because if you have a flat rim, it's not very strong. So I'm going to be setting the rim in 2 motions. The bottom side of the rim, I'm going to be pressing outward, release, and then press the top side. And also, if I see a little air bubble, take a moment to pop it with your pin tool. Get rid of it. Okay, we're ready to set the rim. So I'm setting the inside curve. Clean my rib. Now I'm ready to set the outside. So I'm just pressing down on the outside edge as I support it. And if you really want this plate to have a really flat rim, if you don't want so much lift, it's always easier just to let it dry 10 or 15 minutes and come back to it if you'd like to set the rim down a little bit further. And then make sure you're happy with the edge quality here. Make sure it's compressed with wet fingertips. So it's a nice strong edge that's resistant to chipping. We don't want a paper thin edge. Okay. Now, one other option with a dinner plate, of course they all start out round on the wheel, but I can choose to alter it. That is, I can lift the rim in just a few sections, so that I see a subtle wave as I stack up my plates. So just remember that, it is a plate, but feel free just to move it around a little bit. Now I'm going to let this plate dry until it's the leather hard state, and I would really be cautious about force drying it in front of a fan. I really wouldn't do it, unless you're just constantly turning it every 15 minutes. And the reason for that is that as the clay dries, it shrinks. And what happens is that this edge of the plate tends to dry very quickly. It will actually turn bone dry and become a lighter color. And if that happens, you'll get a crack, a split on the rim, because the edge is drying much faster than the center section. So I would really encourage you just to let them slowly air dry.